Day.
The Honest Truth.
With Benito Vergatini. Smile 90.4 FM.
To fill us in on how your teen could stand a chance to win a share of 3 million rand, as well as to shed light on why parents should encourage having open conversations with their children about the value of esports, is Rocket League evangelist Ryan Hogarth. Mr. Hogarth, good evening and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm thrilled to be out there. And any chance I get to talk about this, I'm there. So thank you.
Tell me firstly, why an evangelist? Are you very passionate about the Rocket League?
Yes. Rocket League is a game I fell into by accident, and it's a bit of a niche game, and we'll talk a bit more about it in a moment. But it's a game I discovered 7 years ago when I was looking for alternative entertainment. I was a little bored with series and that sort of thing. I just keep in mind, I'm a mature gentleman. I was like in my mid-40s then, and I discovered this game, and it is so accessible and so good, and there's this passionate community around it. And then a year and a half ago, it sort of started entering the mainstream in South Africa as it became the highest paid esport. And so my thought is just not enough people know about the game. And I'd love for people, younger people who haven't discovered it, to discover it, but then also parents to get into it because it is so accessible for parents.
So, Ryan, what is Rocket League then all about?
All right. Well, it's one of those games that you have to see and you have to kind of play to appreciate how good it is. But its best and worst description is that it is soccer played in a rocket-powered car.
What?
Which just, it sounds bizarre, but when you see it and you experience it, I think you appreciate it. But that's its best description at its very base level.
Fantastic. So, who is playing this game besides you, of course, who is enjoying it?
So, look, it has a growing player base, but in terms of video games in South Africa, there are far more popular titles. But the bizarre thing is that the publisher of the game, Psionics, a year and a half ago wanted a title that where at the competitive level it was being played globally. So they opened up the competitive Rocket League to all regions. So there are 7 global regions. Sub-Saharan Africa is one of them. And overnight, Rocket League went from this relatively niche, obscure game in South Africa to the highest paid esport. It pays 3 million rand in prize pool over a 9-month period. Globally, that prize pool is $6 million. It's the amounts of money is staggering. So suddenly these kids who had been playing this game they just loved it and they had a lot of passion for it, suddenly had a means to compete at a very high level and earn money doing it. So, and in my opinion, they are so good at the game. I sort of went onto a project to try and get as much exposure, A, for the game, but B, for these players, because I think they should be superstars. They are that good.
So what kind of opportunities then can Rocket League afford South African gamers?
You know what? It's one of those things you've got to be very cautious about what you're selling. It's sort of like the early days of YouTube. Justin Bieber became huge on YouTube, and then every 14-year-old thought they could go on YouTube and become global superstars. Like any activity, there is a small percentage that either get A, lucky enough, or B, are good enough to compete at the highest level. So, there are now beyond just making money from it. What I'm keen to talk to parents about and what I'm seeing is the networks that young people are creating through playing a game like this, because they're connecting with people around the country, they're connecting with people around the world, and these are friendships and networks that will last a lifetime. So there's opportunities from that regard, and then also going into esports as a broader topic in terms of, because there are broadcasters, there are commentators, there are tournament organizers. It's a growing field around just playing the game, but specifically playing the game. It's available on all platforms, and by that I mean PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and it's free to play. So it costs nothing to download it and get going and start playing. And then once you've got a feel for it, and maybe there's a taste of competitiveness, there are avenues to pursue to get connected with other people who want to play competitively, who then organize casual tournaments, more serious tournaments. And then ultimately, if there are scouts, people looking for good players. And if you're picked picked up by one of those, you can make it onto one of the teams that compete in the Rocket League Championship Series.
Ryan Hogarth, Rocket League evangelist, joining us in conversation. If you're an avid supporter and lover of the game, let us know as well why you find it so fantastic on 0829 904 904. And Ryan, it seems that it has gaining or is gaining traction because schools are even now offering esports as an extracurricular activity.
That's the most amazing thing to see is more and more schools are becoming interested in offering esport as a similar to, you can join the chess team or the cricket or the soccer team. Now there's esports, and the big titles for that are Counter-Strike, which is a first-person shooter. And I think anybody who thinks video games probably thinks that kind of game where you're, shooting against one another. And then Rocket League. And Rocket League is rated E for everybody just because it is so accessible. It's a non-violent game, and it's very easy to understand. Once you've watched Rocket League for 5 minutes, you understand there's an orange team, a blue team, and each is trying to score in the other's goals. And it's very easy to follow from that point of view. And so we see the uptake in schools is becoming quite popular. And then VS Gaming, they're sponsored by Telkom. They have a high school championship league. And throughout the course of the year, high schools from around the country are competing with each other online, all playing toward an offline tournament, which is to say a live in-person tournament, which happens at Comic-Con in September.
My word. I mean, this ecosystem, this gaming ecosystem, besides the spectrum of opportunities that it does present, is growing in leaps and bounds, Ryan. It's actually staggering to me. I mean, I got into the game casually. I mean, I'm a mature man. I'm not your typical gamer, and I wouldn't call myself a gamer, although I play this game a lot. And just becoming familiar with as you've put it, the ecosystem that exists, and certainly through the pandemic when we were all stuck at home, it exploded, and to see. It's just remarkable. And it is happening out of the eye of the mainstream. Young people from the ages of sort of 14 to 24 years old who are, organizing communities, organizing tournaments, organizing just these incredible networks that no one sees. And that's what I'm sort of trying to resolve. I want to bring it out of the shadows a little bit and get it out there, but it is growing massively. And it's wonderful to see, and it's wonderful to be a part of it. Well, that growth is evident for I see that Orlando Pirates have also got a Rocket League team, and they've been competing for quite some time. In fact, since 2018 already.
They're the one soccer club who saw the vision, and I've been so amazed and proud of what they've done, because they saw potential early on, picked up a team, and they have always done very well. The team that they have, the roster that they picked up, and they compete at the highest level now. They're in the sort of top 2, top 3 teams in the entire sub-Saharan African region. So yeah, and it blows me away, because your average Orlando Pirates supporter will have no idea that there's a Rocket League team called the Orlando Pirates. But yeah, they're being supported. It's great to see. And then recently, the top team in the country were picked up by an American esports organization called Limitless.
Wow.
Who looked, they were looking for, America and Europe are sort of clustered with esports players and teams, and they wanted to find something that they could sort of take under their wing and help to grow and develop. So they picked up our top team and are supporting them and making sure that they have everything they need to be the best that they can, because in August is the World Championships, and the top 2 teams from Sub-Saharan Africa will go probably to Europe this year. It's held in a different location each year to compete for the world title in this esports. And it's so yeah, there's big money and big activity in and around it.
But as you say, it's been growing out sort of in the wings, away from the mainstream, fairly niche at the moment. And there may be concerns from parents around screen time considerations. What advice can you give or share with parents about having conversations with their children about exploring esports?
It's a really important conversation to have, because a lot of the conversations tend to be around restricting. So, okay, you can play for an hour or 2 hours, or maybe you can play on a Friday or a Saturday. And it's the wrong conversation. This video games and competitive gaming is now endemic to the life of a young person. And so it shouldn't be a case of trying to regulate conversation of like, and there is parents are absolutely correct to be concerned because, if a person is going to succeed, of course, yes, you can play that game, but you've got to exercise, you've got to sleep, you've got to rest, you've got to do your schoolwork. There's all these things. So the conversation should be, okay, what are the priorities? What are you trying to accomplish? And how do we make sure that you are doing the best you can be as a whole person? So that is the conversation I'm trying to encourage rather than viewing it as a luxury that can be or should be meted out meagerly or miserly. This is an important part of a young person who's 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. This is an important part of their identity and who they are in terms of the community that they're forming with their online competitors and players.
There may be concern around that community in terms of individuals' agendas around that. What sort of checks and balances are there, for example, Ryan, to ensure that communities adhere to, to a particular standard of engagement?
Yeah, that's an ongoing concern, as it is for any online community. There are communities that will self-regulate and do that well. There are others that don't do it so well. So this is another area where parents have to be a part of the conversation. Where you want to have people in the community that have ways and means to A, self-regulate, but B, where they can go to report issues of dodgy or abuse or anything of that nature. So they do exist. It can always be better, but it's another reason that parents should be more engaged with their kids and their activity so that they understand and know what's going on and they can provide support where it's needed.
As you described, the sub-Saharan region is the smallest at the moment in the Rocket League Global, but it has such a huge potential as you described, Ryan. I mean, how do we, firstly, from a parent point of view, find out more, maybe even try out playing Rocket League? And what would you share? What advice would you share for gaming enthusiasts about getting started?
All right. Well, with Rocket League specifically, I mean, if you're a parent listening to this, go to your teenager and say, have you heard of Rocket League? And if they haven't, encourage them to have a look at it. If they have heard of it and they're playing it, say, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how it works. And then probably the best way, I mean, as I said, there are a number of communities, and probably the best place to start is I put together a little website, which is really, really basic, but it's meant to be a sort of an aggregation of the communities that exist in Rocket League. So you can go there and you can reach out to me directly. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation about it and point you in the direction of where you can go and look at online resources or, you get yourself more informed.
Fantastic. What's that website, Ryan?
It is greybeard.gg. Grey beard.gg.
All right. Do you have a greybeard, Ryan?
Well, that's my gaming name is Greybeard, and I've named myself that for the very obvious reason that I have a grey beard.
Wonderful. Keep growing it, man. Ryan Hogarth, the Rocket League evangelist. Appreciate you joining us this evening, Ryan. Thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure. And once again, thank you. I'm thrilled to talk about it wherever I can. So thanks again.